I was just going to add that a big thanks to Todd for pinch hitting at the 11th hour here. He suggested he had a couple of backup programs a while back, and here we are. It's 2020. Of course something was going to go wrong eventually. So a big thanks to Todd. He's our Rotarian of the Year for a lot of reasons. And thanks for doing this, Todd, and looking forward to this program.
Well, thanks everybody, and as you know, my expectations couldn't be lower because I've got the last second effort, so I'm hoping that you're all willing to be patient with me as I do my best. What I thought about is how many amazing speakers we've had, and so I'm actually going to cede a portion of my time, if the video is going to work, to one of the most impressive presentations I've ever seen, and it's from way back in 1993, and I know specifically one member of our group will have certainly seen it and will have appreciated it. So I'm looking forward to that. But in the speech, and I'm going to share my screen for a moment here, he talks about three really important things. And you ought to be able to see my screen now. He talks about what is a full day. And he says that a full day is a day in which you can laugh, a day in which you can think, and a day in which you can cry. Now, during this presentation today, I don't think I'm going to make you cry, but I do hope that I'm going to at least try to make you laugh and think a little bit. So I'm going to start it out by, something that's just intriguing to me, because I overheard my wife in a conversation with a high school classmate the other day, and they said something that I thought was really awkward. And I thought, where did that come from? Where did that phrase come from? So I started to think about all these phrases that we colloquially say right now, but we don't even know what their origins are. So what I want to share with you is sort of a story that's going to run through it. So think of this almost as a spelling bee, where I'm going to give you a phrase, right? We're going to have an idea of what it means today. I'm going to share with you a bit of the origin. And then, like in a spelling bee, can you use it in a sentence? Well, I've created a story that actually links each of these phrases together. And at the end, there are a dozen of these. I'm going to actually go to the video of the really good speaker, but for the moment, let me try to get you laughing a little bit. So the first phrase is bury the hatchet, right? So some of you may or may not know where that comes from or imagine where it comes from, but in current times, that would mean, end a conflict by swallowing your pride or something like that, right? Well, the origin is actually from the 1500s. So when the Puritans and indigenous Americans met, they would often actually physically bury their weapons so that they were inaccessible, making it difficult for any violence to take place at one of their meetings. So that's where bury the hatchet actually comes from. When I say actually, this is stuff that I looked up on Google yesterday. So, I can't absolutely vouch for all the accuracy of everything. So now to use it in a sentence or in what I'll call a completely fictitious example. My neighbor Sabrina and I have signs for opposing political viewpoints on our respective lawns, and we agreed that we should bury the hatchet and share a beverage because we have something important in common. We both are fortunate enough to have lawns. Okay, the next one is turn a blind eye. So we all know this means sort of pretending not to notice, especially if something inappropriate is happening, we just pretend it's not happening. Right? So it's a little test of our ethics. The origin is actually from a British naval officer named Horatio Nelson, who was blind in one eye. And when he was making a decision about maneuvering or attacking that required the instruction of his superiors, he would actually look through a telescope and have to get permission from his superiors. Well, what he would do is he would look in his blind eye and then do whatever he decided, because nobody on a ship had a telescope. Nobody else knew what they wanted to do. Right? So they just blindly went along with whatever he said. They had no idea what the difference was. And so he got to do whatever he wanted. So that's where the origin of turn a blind eye came from, according to Google. Now, continuing, and that was in the late 1700s. Continuing with the example, while I was burying the hatchet with Sabrina, I turned a blind eye to the bacon-wrapped shrimp that had fallen off my plate and onto the floor and ate it anyway because, well, it was bacon. Okay, one for the road. One for the road, of course, as you all know, means usually along the lines of we're getting ready to leave and someone just says, hey, how about one for the road? And that usually means just let's have one more drink so we can hang out for a few more minutes and continue our awesome chat, right? Well, the origin had nothing to do with that. The origin is from the Middle Ages. People were on their way to be executed and they were paraded down a street, so the road. And to meet, of course, their, not unceremonious, they're actually their ceremonious end. And a drink cart would stop before the end of the road, and they would offer them one last drink before they were executed. So think about that next time when someone says, hey, how about one for the road, right? Now, just a little fun fact, my parents' anniversary song was Two for the Road. So if anybody knows that song by Mancini, by Henry Mancini, that was actually my parents' wedding song. Now, an example here, when leaving a lovely dinner party, my friend Mary Beth asked me if I wanted one for the road to celebrate our friendship. Here's one, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I've heard this, people say it a bunch of times, but I really didn't even understand what it meant when they were saying it. So I actually looked it up, and what it's supposed to mean is you'd rather be assured of one thing that you can see and control than several things that are uncertain or out of your control. So it's really a control thing. That's what it supposedly means, right? Well, the origin is from somewhere around the 1670s, although what I found in my search is it could go even back through biblical times. In falconry, it was better to have a falcon on your arm and subservient to you than to have two hiding in a bush who then could be preying on you. So that's where the origin of this came from. Continuing with my example, my one for the road turned into four. So I decided to ask my reliable friend Roger, who was with me, to drive me home rather than calling Kathy or Tom, who had left some time ago because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. All right, I know I'm pushing it a little there, but allow me a little bit of leeway, right? And here we go with riding shotgun. Now, you think about riding shotgun as being a passenger in the front seat of a car, right? Well, where that originally came from, in theory, was actually the Wild West. On a stagecoach, a person riding next to the driver often had a shotgun to protect from attackers. Now, interestingly, what I found was there was actually no evidence to support that this actually occurred. It came about because in movies, it made it look romanticized and fantastical. So in a movie, you would see it. In real life, there really isn't any evidence that that occurred. So continuing with my example, on the way out to Roger's car, I yelled, "I'm riding shotgun," to nobody in particular, but I was loud and clear. Put a sock in it. Of course, we know this means to be quiet, right? The origin is actually from the 1890s. Now, what was invented in the 1890s, right? The gramophone. The gramophone, when it was originally created, didn't have a volume button on it. So what people would do to address and adjust the volume was they would take a wool sock and they would put it into that part so it would muffle the sound, and that was your volume control when these first came out, until they created the volume knob. Continuing with my example, I was singing my heart out to some great Bluestones cover tunes when Roger politely tried to inform me that no new lead singer was needed, and after a few minutes, he told me to put a sock in it so he could actually enjoy the music. Break a leg. So of course, this means usually good luck in some sort of a performance, right? Well, interestingly, this is stemming from folklore through the ages. It was thought that wishing someone good luck actually tempted evil spirits. So instead, it was common to provide some sort of wish for misfortune on them to combat, and make sure that evil spirits didn't come. Now, where the broken leg came in was around World War I. German actors used to say something that I'm going to butcher right now, probably, Hals und Bernbruch, which roughly translates to a broken neck and a broken leg. So it went from folklore times through Germany and World War I and acting, and that's how we got to break a leg. Instead of taking me home, Roger brought me to an all-night improv group where my friend David told me to break a leg just before I was to go on stage. I choose to believe he was not being literal. Steal my thunder. Now, of course, this is not a picture of thunder. This is a picture of lightning. I'm well aware of that. But seeing as thunder is a sound and not a image, this is the best I was going to be able to do on this notice. So, of course, when someone says you stole my thunder, they're saying that you took praise or credit for something that the other person was going to do, right? Now, the origin actually goes back to playwright John Dennis in the 1700s. He made a recording that mimicked the sound of thunder, and he provided it and incorporated it into his play. Unfortunately, his play wasn't very successful. So somebody else who was at his play found a way to get the recording, got the recording, and used it in his play. And when John Dennis saw it, he said, "That guy stole my thunder." And that was the origin of this phrase, according to Google. Just as I was about to go on the stage, Olivia told the exact joke I was going to tell. When she walked off the stage and told me to break a leg, I told her that she had stolen my thunder. Pull out all the stops. David Dix, I'm channeling you on this one. Maybe you have a good idea of where this came from. Okay. Pulling out of the stops, of course, means doing everything possible to get something done or accomplished, right? That's how we think of it today. Well, actually, the origin is from the 1400s, believe it or not. Classic pipe organs have many sets of pipes with the stops, which control the airflow to each set. With all the stops pushed in, there's no air movement at all, so there's no sound. Strategically pulling out some of the stops allows the organist to greatly influence the quality of the sound, but pulling out all the stops activates all the pipe sets and results in a very full and very loud sound. So that's what pulling out all the stops means, or where it came from. Forced to think fast, I had to pull out all the stops. I had to search my muddled memory for something that wouldn't get me booed off stage. Every cloud has a silver lining. So of course, there's even in negative circumstances, there can be something positive that comes out of it, right? That's what we think about when we say that now. The origin is from 1634, when English poet John Milton spoke of a silver lining of brightness behind a gloomy cloud. And soon afterwards, Milton's clouds became a staple of English literature. Every cloud has a silver lining, eventually came into being in the 1800s. So that's when, during a time of prosperity, that's where it came to pass. So with my story, just as I thought the pressure would get to me, a great joke, even better than the first, came to mind. I guess every cloud really does have a silver lining. Eat humble pie. So this, of course, is to accept some humiliation, right? For something that you've done that is probably poor or bad, right? In the Middle Ages, there was usually a huge feast after a hunt. So the lord of the manor would receive the finest piece of meat, and the other ones with lower status would eat a pie filled with entrails and innards, which were also known as umbles. Those who would eat the umble pie were considered to be humiliated, since it symbolized their lowest status. So that's where humble pie comes from. An example, after I expertly delivered the punchline, I waited for gusts of laughter and people spitting out their drinks. Apparently, I was alone in thinking that my joke was hilarious. I stood on the stage and ate my humble pie in deafening silence. Much like a Zoom meeting. Okay, this is the last one, rule of thumb. Generally, of course, it means it's an accepted guide based on experience rather than theory, right? So it came about in the 1600s where, and this is horrible, prefacing it, Judge Sir Francis Buller ruled that husbands can beat their wives with a stick if it is no wider than his thumb. So, after learning the origin of the phrase rule of thumb, I will consider it a guiding principle not to use it anymore. I'll just say that it will be a guiding principle for me not to follow an actual funny person like Olivia on stage in the future. So that is my parable for where phrases came from. And what I'd like to do now with the remaining 10 minutes is play something, yeah, Tom Larkin, you got it right, is play a little bit, and I'm gonna hope that this works. because I really want you to hear, this is one of my absolute favorite speeches, and Lang, I thought of you with this, of course, as well. Let's see if you can hear it as I play it. Okay. Randy, can you give a thumbs up if you can hear it?
Tell you what an honor it is to even be mentioned in the same breath with an Arthur Ashe. This is something I certainly will treasure forever. But as was said on the tape, I don't have one of those things going to cue cards, so I'm going to speak longer than anybody else who's spoken tonight. That's the way it goes. Time is very precious to me. I don't know how much I have left, and I have some things that I would like to say. Hopefully, at the end, I'll have something that will be important to other people too. But I can't help it. Now when I'm fighting cancer, everybody knows that. People ask me all the time about how you go through your life and how's your day. And nothing has changed for me. As Dick said, I'm a very emotional, passionate man. I can't help it. That's being the son of Rocco and Angelina Valvano. That just comes with the territory, right? We hug, we kiss, we love. And when people say to me, how do you get through life or each day, it's the same thing. To me, there are three things we all should do every day. We do this every day of our life. You're going to have, what a wonderful, number one is laugh. You should laugh every day. Number two is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number three is you should have your emotions moved to tears. Could be happiness or joy. But think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. You do that 7 days a week, you're going to have something special. And so I can't help. I rode on the plane up today with Mike Krzyzewski, my good friend and a wonderful coach, but people don't realize he's a 10 times better person than he is a coach. And we know he's a great coach. He's meant a lot to me these last 5 or 6 months of my battle. But when I look at Mike, I think we competed against each other as players. I coached against him for 15 years. And I always have to think about what's important in life is to think to me of three things: where you started, where you are, and where you're going to be. Those are the three things that I try and do every day. You know, when I think about getting up and giving a speech, I can't help it. I have to remember the first speech I ever gave. I was coaching at Rutgers University. That was my first job. That's wonderful. And I was the freshman coach. That's when freshmen played on freshman team. And I was so fired up about my first job. I see Coach Holtz here. What was it like the first job you had, right? The very first time you stood in the locker room to give a pep talk. That's a special place, the locker room, for a coach to give a talk. So my idol as a coach was Vince Lombardi. And I read this book called Commitment to Excellence by Vince Lombardi. And in the book, Lombardi talked about the first time he spoke before his Green Bay Packer team in a locker room. They were perennial losers. And I'm reading this, and Lombardi said he was thinking, should it be a long talk, a short talk? But he wanted to be emotional. He said, be brief. And this is what he did. Normally you get in the locker room, 25 minutes, a half hour before the team takes the field. You do your little X and O's, and then you give the great Newt Rockne talk. We all do. Speech number 84. You pull them right out. You get ready. Get your squad ready. This is the first one I ever gave. And I read this thing, Lombardi, what he said was he didn't go in. He waited. His team was wondering, where is he? Where is this great coach? He's not there. 10 minutes. He's still not there. 3 minutes before they have to take the field, Lombardi comes in, bangs the door open. And I think you all remember what great presence he had, right? Great presence. And he walked in, and he just walked back and forth like this, just staring at the players. And he said, all eyes on me. I'm reading this in this book, and I'm getting a picture of this Lombardi before his first game. And he said, gentlemen, we will be successful this year. You can focus on three things and three things only: your family, your religion, and the Green Bay Packers. And he's like that. And the rest of it, they knocked the walls down. The rest was history. I said, that's beautiful. I'm going to do it. Your family, your religion, and Rutgers basketball. That's it. I had it. I'm 21 years old. The kids I'm coaching are 19. All right? And I'm going to be the greatest coach in the world, the next Lombardi. And I'm ready. And I'm practicing out right inside the locker room. The manager's telling me, you got to go in. Not yet. Family, religion, Rutgers basketball. All eyes on me. I got it. And now finally he said, 3 minutes. I said, fine. True story. I go to knock the doors open, just like Lombardi. Boom! They didn't open. I almost broke my arm. I was like You know, it was when it didn't open. Now I'm down. The players are looking. You know, coach, you gotta help the coach out, help him out. You know, and now I did like Lombardi. I walked back and forth, right? And I was going like that with my arm, get the feeling back in it. And finally, I said, gentlemen, all eyes on me. These kids wanted to play. They're 19. Let's go. I said, gentlemen, we'll be successful this year if you can focus on 3 things and 3 things only. He said, that your family, your religion, and the Green Bay Packers. I told him. I did that. I remember that. I remember where I came from. It's so important to know where you are. And I know where I am right now. How do you go from where you are to where you want to be? And I think you have to have an enthusiasm for life. You have to have a dream, a goal. You have to be willing to work for it. I talked about my family. My family is so important. People think I have courage. The courage of my family is my wife, Pam, my 3 daughters here, Nicole, Jamie, Leanne, my mom, who is right here too. And the screen is flashing up there 30 seconds. Like I care about that screen right now, huh? I got tumors all over my body. I'm worried about some guy in the back going 30 seconds, huh? You got a lot. Hey, phenomenal, buddy. You got a lot. I just got one last thing. I urge all of you to enjoy your life, the precious moments you have, to spend each day with some laughter and some thought, to get your emotions going, to be enthusiastic every day. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said, nothing great can be accomplished without enthusiasm, to keep your dreams alive in spite of problems, whatever you have, the ability to be able to work hard for your dreams to come true, become a reality. Now I look at where I am now, and I know what I want to do. What I would like to be able to do is to spend whatever time I have left and to give maybe some hope to others. Right? Arthur Ashe Foundation is a wonderful thing. And AIDS, the amount of money pouring in for AIDS is not enough, but it is significant. But if I told you it's 10 times the amount that goes in for cancer research, I also tell you that 500,000 people will die this year of cancer. And I also tell you that 1 in every 4 will be afflicted with this disease. And yet, somehow, we seem to have put it in a little bit of the background. I want to bring it back on the front table. We need your help. I need your help. We need money for research. It may not save my life. It may save my children's lives. It may save someone you love. And it's very important. And ESPN has been so kind to support me in this endeavor and allow me to announce tonight that with ESPN's support, which means what? Their money, their dollars, they're helping me. We are starting the Jimmy V Foundation for Cancer Research. And its motto is, don't give up, don't ever give up. And that's what I'm going to try to do. Every minute that I have left, I will thank God for the day, the moment I have. And if you see me, smile and maybe give me a hug, because that's important to me too. But try, if you can, to support, whether it's AIDS or the Cancer Foundation, so that someone else might survive, might prosper, it might actually be cured of this dreaded disease. I can't thank ESPN enough for allowing this to happen, and I'm going to work as hard as I can, for cancer research, and hopefully maybe we'll have some cures and some breakthroughs. And I'd like to think I'm going to fight my brains out to be back here again next year for the Arthur Ashe recipient. I want to give it next year. I know I've got to go. I've got to go. And I got one last thing. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind. It cannot touch my heart. And it cannot touch my soul. And those 3 things are going to carry on forever. I thank you, and God bless you all.
Great. With that, I want to say thank you for the opportunity and for the time, and I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, I really think you did make us laugh for sure, and certainly made me think. And that last video certainly touched our hearts. So I think we're well on our way to accomplishing those 3 tasks for today. I was just going to comment. You know, some things that the stick a sock in, I think is going to stay with me the rest of my life. I'd never thought about that before. Just a little anecdote here. Growing up, I lived across the street from Don Gaffel, who was a physics teacher at the high school, and he was a Edison nut. I don't know how many gramophones he had in his basement. Actually, when he left here, he went to Milan and became superintendent of the schools up there, but also ran the Thomas Edison Museum for years and years. That's where Edison was born. But I certainly will remember stick a sock in it from now on. So thank you very much. Very enjoyable program. That's our time for today. So we're going to call an end to it here.